blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, reads the preamble. To implement these words, to bring them to life, the Constitution continues. The executive power shall be vested in a president. The president shall be commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states when called into the actual service of the United States.
What's interesting is Washington writes to Madison in April, I think, of 1787, a month or so before the convention, and he's probably had some inkling of what Madison's up to, but he says to him, well, what about the executive? And Madison replies and says, I haven't given it much thought.
The executive power of the government was placed in one man, the President of the United States. He would be responsible to the people for all departments of government.
Many anti-federalists propose as an alternative to what they call the President General, either a plural executive, which is two or more men sharing the office, a recipe for what a sage once called a wise and masterly inactivity, or they wanted no executive at all.
Once it's decided it's going to be a single person, then it's a very simple, Article 2 is very simple, Commander-in-Chief, and will be the executive, that is, he will execute the laws. Well, that's vague. But what do they mean by that? Well, we've been filling it in ever since, and now, of course, the president seems to have all the prerogative powers of a king, including the power to declare, well, not to declare war, but to go to war. That's not something that they really anticipate.
Despite having the everyday and everyman theory that's out there that America, anyone can be president of the United States, I think many people believe that that job needs to be won within the hands of the elite. And I think that's why there's praise for the Founding Fathers, because they were the elite. In a time period in which the vast majority of people in 1787 were uneducated.
George Washington had been elected as a delegate from Virginia to the Constitutional Convention, and he had said, no, I'm not going. But then Shays' Rebellion happened, and he started getting these incredibly alarming letters from his friends further north who said, this is not just a farmers' revolt, but to use modern language, it's a communist revolt. That is, the farmers want to march to Boston and take the property from the merchants and distribute it among themselves. They didn't, but that was the perception that arrived at Mount Vernon. And that frightened Washington. He's not a guy who's scared real easily, but that was enough to scare him into saying, okay, I've got to go to the Constitutional Convention. And so he changed his mind after Shays' Rebellion and said that Shays' Rebellion was the main reason that he was doing so. And so you might say to me, okay, well, that's just one guy out of 55. But the Constitution is unimaginable without George Washington. If he hadn't been there, and hadn't endorsed the product, there's no way that the states would have ratified the Constitution.
General Washington, honored by Americans above all other men, and now elected President of the Convention.